I am so excited that you are here to listen to this conversation that I had with Kyla Miller. She's the founder of Mala Ray, and her jewelry is amazing. Not just because it's spectacularly beautiful, and everybody in Ottawa for sure talks about Kyla and her beautiful jewelry, but because of what we can do with these malas. So I know that there's this big craze going on with malas, and everyone's talking about them. These bracelets, and they're the necklaces, and everyone's kind of going crazy with them. And people are using them with essential oils and all sorts of different things. But I wanted to go a little bit deeper with Kyla to find out why she started her company and how it began for her, and then maybe go a little bit deeper on how we can use these beautiful pieces of jewelry to improve our health and wellness. So I think that you are going to be blown away by meeting this beautiful, genuine, compassionate, incredible woman who has started this company out of a need that she found in her own life. And she's also going to be sharing a little bit about the talk that she's going to be delivering to us at the Healthy Brain and Body Show, which is happening April 21st and 22nd at the EY Center here in Ottawa. If you live locally, we can't wait to see you at the show, and you will have a chance to meet Kyla up close and personal and listen to her story and learn a little bit about what she's going to be sharing during her talk at the show. So I can't wait for you to listen. So let's get started. I am so excited to introduce to you a woman who I had the honor and privilege of meeting in person last year at the Healthy Brain and Body Show. And her name is Kyla Miller. She owns Mala Ray. She is a beautiful, amazing, genuine, heart-centered entrepreneur, and just a woman that I am excited to introduce you to, because she honestly embodies everything that I feel when it comes to people that want to do things for the right reasons, who get into business for themselves for all the right reasons. I want to learn more from her today about how she started her business, why she decided on Mala beads, and what she's all about. So I want to introduce her to you, Kyla Miller of Mala Ray. Welcome, Kyla.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you so much for the kind words. So to give you a little bit of insight, I actually, funny enough, didn't intend to start a business when I started Mala Ray. It was something that happened really organically, which is beautiful in its own sense. But it's also had some ups and downs, not having a business background, which has been fun. But how it started was really just a real interest in meditation and mindfulness. So without going too much into my history and my life story, I went through some pretty traumatic experiences during my adolescent years, which contributed to a lot of anxiety. And so I was, riddled with anxiety for almost 8 years of my adolescent life. And so it wasn't until I was 23 that I really started to work through that and figure out what was causing it. So I did a huge diet change and a lifestyle change and all of that stuff that a lot of us go through on our path to self-healing. And one of those major contributing paths was more attention to my center and to kind of going within and being able to self-soothe and calm myself during those moments of anxiety. But that said, even though I really wanted to meditate, I found it really challenging to focus, like a lot of us do. I don't think meditation is easy for anyone. And so that's kind of how I got started. And so when I was starting to meditate and trying to get that focus, I had heard about Mala beads, but I had never been shown how to use them or, really done any in-depth research on them. But I just felt like I had to use one. Like I instinctively kind of knew that it could help. And so without really, it's funny because I went online to, look for ones that I would like to buy and to purchase, but there was none that really connected, that I felt connected to. And so I just decided to make them myself. I said, well, how hard can this be, right? Like, let's just make it myself and get it going, and that's good. So that's what I did. And looking back now, and I teach workshops now on how to make them. And, a lot of people realize like it's a practice, so it gets easier and easier. But like when you first start, it's actually really challenging. It's quite a patience practice. Um, but it just felt like it came so naturally to me. And so
And
that's
I
just
kind
kind of
of
how
love
I
that
was.
I love that you're kind of saying it's a patient's practice of making bracelets and
Absolutely.
necklaces. And it's a patient's practice of meditating. Like you said,
Yeah.
so many of us have such a hard time sitting on that mat or sitting on that spot and closing our eyes and going within. And in fact, I often will say to people, you don't necessarily have to always get on a mat and spend 20 minutes of silence and trying to calm that monkey mind. There's a
Absolutely.
video out there of a monk who says, training the monkey mind is as easy as just focusing on the breath and going within. And you can do that even when you're standing in line at Starbucks or at the local coffee shop,
Absolutely.
right? Like you don't
Absolutely.
have to necessarily do that. And that's kind of what I love about the mala beads being a tool, because I will often find myself just sort of standing, waiting in line and just using my mala beads in that way, where I'm not on a mat. I'm in my winter coat, wherever I am doing whatever I am, using my mala beads in that way. So I think that's amazing, and how incredible it is that your business sort of came out, like you say, organically out of a
Mm,
need. I mean, isn't that just
yeah,
the way it often is with businesses and
absolutely.
entrepreneurs, that they see a need and they fill it? And that's just the best, because obviously if you needed something, you knew that there would be, other people like you out there that would need it as
Absolutely.
well.
And that's kind of how it happened, was that, when I started using them, I realized like how beneficial it was for me and how much it helped me. And then, so naturally, when something helps you, you want to share it. And so I just ended up, making them as gifts for people. And then it just kind of snowballed from there, which has been quite an exciting ride. But further
So
to your
tell us
point,
what.
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. You
no,
go ahead first, and then I want to ask you the question of, like, what are mala beads, and
yeah,
tell
yeah,
us
yeah.
why they're more powerful than a regular other bead that you can buy at the bead store.
Absolutely. So, well, then that's kind of where I was going. Just kind of talking about how mala beads, you don't necessarily, further to your point, have to be sitting and, reciting a mantra with your mala beads. They're traditionally used that way, but a lot of people now are using them more as mindfulness pieces as well. So, an example of that would be at the beginning of your day, um, taking 2 minutes to think about, what do you need today? Do you need more patience? Do you need more understanding or love or whatever it might be? Doing that while you just even hold your mala beads, and then as you wear them throughout the day, when you see them or you touch them or you feel them, whatever, you hear them kind of clink against something, it brings you back to that intention, right? It brings you back to that mindful moment and reminds you of what your purpose is for that day. So it's a really beautiful, um, tool that can be used at your disposal, right? Yeah.
Oh, I really love that. So tell us, where do Malibu, do they all come from sort of the same place? They can be made from all different things, as far as I understand. So tell us
Yeah.
what Malibeads are. Tell us about them.
Yeah. So the mala, the word mala is actually the Sanskrit word. So Sanskrit, you may have heard from yoga, right? So the Sanskrit yoga poses like savasana, right? It's one of the most loved poses, and that's the that's the Sanskrit word for the
That's the
pose.
one where we lay down at the end and we're just
Yeah,
like, thank God this is
this is
over. We did
over.
it. We did it. We're sweaty and feeling exhausted, but it was amazing. And yeah, that's our
Exactly.
favorite one.
That's our
Savasana for everybody.
favorite. So that is an ancient in Indian text, Sanskrit, and so that's where mala beads originate. And so it's the word is garland in English. So basically meaning a necklace, a string of beads, that kind of thing. And traditionally, there's 108 stones in a mala, or beads, or seeds, or whatever is used. And that number has a lot of significance. If you Google 108 and the significance of that number, you'll come up with a wide variety of beliefs and traditions around that number. So it's really about finding what resonates with you and what connects, with you and your beliefs. For example, one of the yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going
Yeah,
to say, so 108, but you couldn't possibly put 108 beads on a bracelet. I know you can do that
right.
on a necklace. So
Yeah.
how do you work around that when it comes to a bracelet?
So for the bracelets, what I do, because I do custom work, so I offer different collections on the website, but I also offer custom designs. So for people that are looking for a more personal touch, for gemstones and crystals that are specific to their energetic needs, for their intentions, then I do custom designs. So if someone wanted a mala bracelet, I could definitely make that for them. So that is usually a derivative number of 108, so 27, for example. But the issue with a mala bracelet is that it won't fit everyone, right? So if you have 27 beads on a cotton string or a silk string, it will most likely be too big for someone to wear. So they would simply, it would be a shorter meditation, 27. They could do it multiple times to be 108. But it would be something that they would keep on their altar or a special place. It wouldn't be necessarily something that they wear. So I offer the mala, like we call them mala bracelets, but really they're gemstone bracelets, the bracelets on the website. But I offer them in different sizing on elastic so that at least people can use them as that mindfulness tool, and that they can gain the benefits and the properties of the gemstones themselves. So it's a little bit of a compromise that we have to make.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, so with the gemstones, they all as well have their own beneficial properties, all of the different gemstones, don't they?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's
That's awesome.
the world of gemstones is quite amazing and broad, and there's so much information out there on them. I mean, they're basically living rocks, right, from the earth. And rocks, as we know, all have a certain vibration. They're living. And so each of these gemstones for eons of time have been used, and there's well documented, beliefs and traditions around each gemstone and what they're used for, and which chakra they relate to, and what um, physical ailments they can help with, emotional, spiritual, that kind of thing. So yeah,
So
it's
tell
quite
us
interesting.
I can only imagine the world that opened up to you when you didn't
Mm,
even know what you were getting yourself into. I
absolutely.
can only, right? Like you're
Mhm.
thinking that you're just doing this work for yourself
Yeah.
to ease your anxiety and to work through things. And like you say, to add another tool to the toolbox. And then all of a sudden you're opening up this entire new world to yourself. And I can just imagine how amazing it's been how long have you been in business?
Officially, just under 3 years. I've been making them closer to four, almost five now. But yeah, officially in business, just under three. Yeah.
And what have been what's some of the best feedback that you've gotten from people, or some of those, messages that you get? I'm sure you receive them almost daily. What are people
Yeah.
saying about your work?
Yeah, it's quite overwhelming, honestly, and very humbling. I never wanted to, like, I never intended to put myself in this position, but it feels like I just have this. It's almost like a sixth sense when it comes to crystals and knowing what will work for someone. It's really I'm surprising myself actually with it. But yeah, like the client feedback is amazing. I've had particularly with it's something that's interesting that's not talked about a lot, but malas are actually intended to break. So sometimes we're not used to that in our society. If something breaks, it's considered bad, right? Like you know, and so, but a mala is actually intended to break. The reason being is that it allows us to let go, right? We become very attached to mala beads, especially when we're using them daily, or we have them kind of as like a security blanket almost. So when they break, it can be a traumatic experience, but it can also allow you to reflect on, okay, why did it break? And, why am I so attached to this? And can I let it go? Am I ready for a new intention maybe, or a new set of stones maybe to help me in different areas? And so some of the client, like one in particular, one client that stood out to me was a lady who she she had not come out to her family as being a lesbian. She was having difficulty with it. They kind of knew, but it wasn't really talked about. And she had been in a relationship for uh, over 2 years with her girlfriend, and she, sorry, I lost my train of thought because this came up. She,
That's okay.
I guess I'll go back. That,
But you were just
yeah.
saying that a woman came out to her family as being a lesbian,
Yeah. Okay.
and
Yeah. So she had been in a relationship with her girlfriend for just over 2 years, and she had this mala as kind of a tool to like ground herself and to be confident and to accept, the way things kind of were, but also to open up her throat chakra. She wanted to be able to voice her truth and be confident in that, and feel comfortable. And so we worked on this mala design together, and she was wearing it for um, just I think it was like 3 or 4 months she'd been wearing it and using it, and she had become really, really attached to it. And she had decided finally that it was just time for her to bring her girlfriend home, introduce her to her parents, like for this to kind of just be all said and done and out in the open, and for her to move on with her life. And she said that she called me the day after, and she had they were sitting in the car, and she was holding onto her mala, and she was just kind of reciting these things to her, what her intention was for this piece and like what it was supposed to help her with. And she walked up to the door with her girlfriend, and her mom opened the door, and it just let go. It just shattered, and she looked down, like she just like at that moment, as soon as like her mom opened the door and she was ready to like step through the door, it was like she didn't need it anymore, and it just let go. And that to me, still to this
my
day,
jaw literally,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it's
Sorry, to this day.
yeah, no, and like to this day, it still gives me the chills, and it still like makes me
Oh,
emotional, because it was such a pivotal moment for her, and it was so it's we can say all these things like Amala is, I can say, oh, it's supposed to break, and it's, it knows when to break and all these things. But with the clients that I've talked to, and, all of these experiences like that, like I know that there's more to it. So yeah, it's been pretty fabulous. Yeah.
Oh, and at the beginning, when I introduced you, I talked about how you are one of the most caring, genuine, compassionate, beautiful women I have had the pleasure of meeting, and seeing tears in your eyes just after
Yeah.
telling that story. I mean, like, I have tears in my eyes. I can't believe that happened. So when
Yeah.
you're saying that malas break, you don't mean the
Mhm.
actual beads themselves. You mean
No,
the what they're strung with,
what they're
the
strung with. Yeah. So like
and
it's
breaks, and the beads go everywhere, or they don't, I guess, because they're individually usually
if they're
done.
yeah, so if they're made, I don't want to say properly because everyone has their own style, but traditionally there is a knot between each stone, and that the purpose of that is to facilitate using it. So when you're passing through each stone through your hands, it just facilitates the movement. The knots also represent kind of the rough patches in our life. So you have like the knot, and then you have the smooth bead, and then you have the knot, and then you have the smooth bead. So it kind of represents that ebb and flow of life, right? That when we're having challenging times, we know that good times are coming. So yeah,
Oh,
that's why I love the significance of the knotting. It takes more time, but it just makes it that much nicer. And when they break, it doesn't go everywhere on the floor. Yeah,
so you can salvage the mala bracelet, and
exactly.
you can, and then would you work with you again and have you put it back together? Is that
You
what would happen?
can, absolutely, you can. So we offer like a restringing for sure. Some people choose to leave them broken and leave them on their altar in a special place. Some people choose to have them redone and gifted to a loved one or a friend. Some aren't. They know in themselves that they're not ready to let it go. So in that case, it's totally fine to have it, redone and continue wearing it. It's a judgment-free zone, right? It's all up to you and how you feel and what's right for you. Yeah.
And speaking of judgment-free zone and allowing us to use them in the way that we want to, but can you give
Mm-hmm.
us some techniques or ways that you like to use your malas? Maybe holding one in front of the camera and showing everybody
Yeah.
how you do it. I think we all like to know if we're doing it the
Yeah.
right way, or if we're, and I know
Yeah.
there's no right or wrong way, but I'm always
Yeah.
kind of like, whenever I'm using mine, I'm like, am I doing this right? So let's see
Yeah.
how you do it, Kyla.
Sure. So I can show you, like, basically, like you said, there's no right or wrong way, but how I've become accustomed to it is if I'm using my malas in meditation, I'll first sit and choose a mantra of some kind or an intention. So that can be, one word. It can be something significant like love. It can be something like a phrase like "I am love." Anything that's meaningful to you in that moment is good. And then what you would do. So I have this mala here. So you have the tassel at the bottom traditionally, and then there's something called the guru stone, which is a little bit larger than the rest of the beads, and it's additional to the 108. During practice, traditionally you're not supposed to touch the guru. You're supposed to leave that kind of until the end. It's where all of your intentions are held and all of your prayers throughout your practice. Once you're done, that's a time to sit with your guru and kind of reflect on it if you wish. So you would start just above the guru stone on whichever side you want. And then with whichever hand feels better, you usually drape the mala over your middle finger. Again, this is traditional. They say to leave the index finger out of the equation just because the index finger usually represents the ego, right? When we point at someone or whatever. So they say to keep that out. That being said, if it's more distracting, in my opinion, if it's more distracting and you feel better to have it like this, why not? That's my opinion, but each their own. But it actually feels not too bad like this to have it over your middle finger. And then you use your thumb just to pull each bead forward, right? So that's where the knot comes in because there's a little bit more of a space in between each bead. So as you pull it forward with each bead, then you recite your mantra. So I am love, I am love, I am love. You keep reciting it. And the beautiful thing, so what I take from this symbolism of 108 is we're said to have 108 nadis or energy centers that span off from our chakras. And so I visualize when I'm reciting my mantra, I visualize those mantras or those keywords going to each of those energy points. And then I kind of picture that my whole body attunes to that intention once it goes to all 108. You know, so you have to have something that resonates with you for it to really take effect. But yeah, so
I love that. I love how you described that. And
yeah.
So for those of us that don't have the necklaces, what about the bracelet? Same idea? Do you just keep going around to 108, which I don't think you'd be able to keep track?
Yeah, so that's why.
Yeah, how would we do that?
Yeah, so that's why a meditation bracelet would be a really good tool. So that's something specific, like where you would have 27 beads, for example. Then you could, like with a bracelet or a mala, if you get to the end, like if you go all the way through and you get to your guru bead, you would, if you wanted to continue, you would just flip it over and then start going the other way. And you could do that as many times as you want. So with a bracelet, it would be the same thing. So 27 times 4, I think, right, is 108. So you would do four ways, 4 directions, and then that would be your 108. Yeah.
And on the bracelets, there's typically, what's the one stone that's typically different or larger? What's that called?
It's called the guru stone.
On the bracelet?
Oh, on the bracelet?
Oh, so the same thing.
Yeah, kind of the same thing. Yeah, it depends on who's making the bracelet. There's so many different designs and everything. But yeah, on a bracelet, like some of ours are more like just standard bracelets, wouldn't have a guru because we wouldn't normally use them for meditation. It'd be more for like mindfulness and for the properties of gemstones and that kind of thing. But you can have anything
I'm
you
just
want.
so right. That's awesome. I love that it can just be honestly our own tool and we get to choose how it fits into our lives. Yeah. I really loved hearing from you how it helped you to deal with your anxiety. I know that so many people are suffering with anxiety and depression. And what's amazing is that you and I shared a bit of a private conversation at the show last year. And we both you admitted to me that, you know, you're very introverted, that doing shows and getting out in front of people, and I'm sure doing this you know, conversation with me online, this is not your favorite thing to do. This is not the easiest thing for you to do. And and I know I'm somebody that comes across as extroverted, but I'm actually an introverted extrovert. You and I talked about that too, that I can definitely do it. I can get out there. I can put myself out there. I've done that my whole life. But truth be told, I need to re-energize alone. I need to re-energize by being quiet and being on my own. And so I just think it's amazing that these beautiful necklaces and bracelets and these beads and these gemstones can be, like you say, a tool in our toolbox that we can just look to them as something else that can provide us with some peace and some comfort and maybe, you know, help us to turn a corner the way they obviously did for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've had to get over that quite quickly. Yeah.
Owning your own business, it kind of has
Yeah.
to happen fairly quickly. And
Yeah.
let's not forget, because you are a sponsor of the Healthy
Yeah.
Brain and Body Show for 2018. We are thrilled to have you on board as a sponsor with us. We couldn't have
Same.
asked for a more amazing sponsor for our show. We're so delighted. And you are going to be doing a talk at the show. So you're going to be getting in front of a whole bunch of people. And I'd
Yeah.
love to hear a little bit about, I know it's not finalized everything
Yeah.
about your talk, but I'd like to have a little taste of what you're going to be teaching and talking about at the show, just
Sure.
so that people can get a taste of it. And then they know that they can come to the show and learn more from you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what I'm thinking is to do a little talk on an intro to meditation. So not necessarily with mala beads. That's one tool that you can use, but there's so many different avenues that you can take with meditation because we're all different. We're all unique and it's not a one size fits all. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk a little bit about, how long does your meditation need to be? Does it need to be a half an hour? Do you need to be sitting cross-legged with your, mudras going? Do you, kind of like you touched, like where should you be and how should you look if you should look a certain way at all? And just talk a little bit about that and give some people some
Oh,
really
yay.
good, give some people some really good tools to start a meditation practice if they're interested. Yeah.
So important. I am so excited that this has evolved. And what we talked earlier, way back earlier in the year, and or last year, and you were, you weren't quite sure what way you were going to take your talk. And I'm loving that this is going to be the topic because,
Yeah.
like I asked you about, am I doing this right? What am I doing? We want to learn from people who we really look up to. And I know a lot of people really look up to the way that you govern your life, the way that you conduct your life and yourself, and the things that you've come up and through. I think this is going to be an amazing experience for people. I know that there will be standing room only at the show because people want to know what to do, how to do it. Not everybody's going to have mala beads or bracelets or necklaces or want to wear them. Other people are wondering, when I'm doing yoga, am I meditating then? Am I supposed to do it during savasana? Am I supposed to be, sometimes I go to a yoga class and everyone's looking like they're super meditating. And I
Yeah.
walk in like rushed and disheveled and a disaster. And I'm like, I'm not doing this properly. And then I just remember, as I finally take that breath and get settled in, that there is no right or wrong way. And I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to do everything the right way. But I think it's really key to have somebody, leading us and saying, this is a way that works for some, and here are some other ideas that work for others, and here's something that can work for you. And I love that this is what you're going to be talking about. I think that is going to be a fantastic, fantastic talk. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm so excited for it. I think it's going to be good.
Excellent. So, for people to learn more about you and to find your malas and to maybe work with you for custom malas, and I know you have a workshop. It's coming up. I don't know if by the time we post this video, if it will be gone or not. But I think is it January 21st? You're doing a workshop in Ottawa.
Yeah, we're actually sold out at this point. But that's okay.
So
It's
never mind,
okay.
everybody. Pretend I didn't say that.
And we always have up-to-date workshops on our website under the events calendar. So yeah, I'm always doing mala workshops. If you don't see anything on there, you can always reach out to us and we put you on a waiting list. But yeah, it's
Well, that's a good problem to have that that you sell out of those. That's fantastic. Malarae.com. So it's MALARAE.com. Of course, I'm going to put all these links below as well so that people can find you on social media, on your Facebook. I think I know you're on Instagram. Are you on Twitter as well?
I am, although I don't understand it. So it's very limited. I get Instagram and I get Facebook, but Twitter is still challenging for me. Twitter
feels like you're shouting into a vacuum and you're like, is anything here? Is anything happening? Twitter is typically meant for having conversations with people. But then when people don't converse with your back, you're just kind of talking to yourself. You're like, what's happening? I totally get it. I have a hard time with Twitter too. And I'm like, this doesn't seem to make any sense. But we can totally understand Instagram when we see those beautiful photos. And I noticed on your website that you do retreats as well. So do you go on those retreats? Because there's one happening tomorrow in Bali, and I'm imagining you're not getting
there.
on a plane.
I am not there. No, I helped organize one with a good friend of mine and sponsored it. But she got the pleasure of going. I did not go. I was almost there, but just things didn't align. So But maybe another one for sure. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, but that's just a cool place for people that are looking for a safe, secure, really well organized retreat. I
Yeah.
imagine that is all part of what you are a part of creating. So, for people out there that are looking to do a meditation retreat and to do something different, that's another place, that's another reason to visit malaray.com. Kyla, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for helping me to understand a little bit more about how you decided to get into this line of work and why, again, it is so obvious that you are so completely heart centered because you come through it, because you came through it as somebody who needed this in your own life and you found a need that you now are sharing with other people. And to me, there's no greater gift than that. So thank you for what you're bringing to the world. Your work matters. We are, again, so delighted to have you as one of our sponsors for the 2018 Healthy Brain and Body Show. So anybody listening right now or watching that is going to be coming to the show, it's April 21st and 22nd, 2018 at the EY Center in Ottawa. And Kyla Miller is going to be there with her beautiful jewelry, and you are not going to want to miss it. Her stuff is spectacular. And as you can feel, her warmth is just, I mean, it transcends the screen. So once again, Kyla, thank you so much for being with me tonight.
Thank you so much.